What's up guys, Houndish here, and today it's time for that juicy Destiny 2 news. So we're going to jump in and talk about a bunch of stuff in this video. We have some new supposed leaks about Penumbra, or Season of Opulence, some of the new content we're going to be getting, returning exotic weapons, there's some pretty cool stuff there, and possible D3 leaks coming our way soon. So we'll touch on all of that stuff. But on top of this, we have some huge April update changes coming in, a buff to Nova Warp is apparently on the way, and on top of this we have loot adjustments and stuff linked to upcoming events. We're also going to talk about Morro's Peril, a load of roundups and things worth knowing about the game right now. Before we get into it guys, if you're looking for a really nice, super smart watch, then be sure to check out Tayrock. They have some really neat watches in their collection, and right now you can save 20% in the store with code Houndish, so the link for that is in the description below. Be sure to check it out if you're interested. But now let's get into the Destiny 2 news stuff. We're going to touch on the new leaks for Penumbra, or Season of Opulence, and these have popped up on Reddit interestingly. And user Shadow of Anon the 9 basically says that this post is a culmination of info given by Anon the 9 in many different discords, forum platforms, all that kind of stuff. And of course, Anon the 9 is one of the most notorious leakers when it comes to Destiny. They've given us a whole bunch of information very early that has turned out to be pretty much bang on. And so for the precise legitimacy of these leaks, we'll have to wait and see, but we get information about the story for Season of Opulence. So they say, we return to the Leviathan and discover the source of Emperor Callus's power. This also has the first tease of the Darkness enemies to be introduced in Destiny 3, and the event itself was also teased in the Drifter's lore entry about creatures on an ice planet that he found. And of course that will be a current Season 6 entry, but apparently we'll be getting some exotic weapons. Now firstly, Rose and Hawkmoon, both weapons we've spoken about before. Anon mentioned that these should be coming into the game many months ago. However, in addition to this, apparently Dark Drinker will also be returning to the game. Now if you're an avid Destiny 1 player, you'll remember this weapon. But as a quick reminder, of course, Dark Drinker was the all-powerful exotic sword that we got in the Taken King. This is one that had the crazy kind of swirl attack that did an absolute ton of damage. Generally the highest damage exotic sword that we've ever had in Destiny. So obviously very exciting if Dark Drinker is going to return to the game. But of course Dark Drinker originally came as a set of swords. So we also had the Razorlighter and the Boltcaster. Perhaps those could return to the game at some point. Let us know your thoughts about it down below. But once again, Rose, Hawkmoon and Dark Drinker supposedly will all come next season. And it's also interesting that this season, it appears that we're getting one new exotic weapon, and that's in the form of Arbalest whenever it decides to drop. But of course we've had Thorn, and we also have another free exotic quest on the roadmap, probably linked to the upcoming event for the game, and generally these are also returning weapons. So at the very least we'll be seeing 2 returning weapons and 1 new weapon, and that does kind of align with what we've seen this season. But for the activities, the content, we actually get a bit of an idea of what this new 6-player match-made activity is gonna look like. So Shadow said, just like how Joker's Wild had Mamba as a codename for Gambit Prime, Penumbra has codename Dragonslayer for its pinnacle activity, a new game mode that blends puzzle solving with wave-based combat akin to Prison of Elders, comparable to an escape room. That's pretty interesting as well. We first heard about Mamba, which is Gambit Prime, many months ago, and of course that did come from Anon. And you can still see traces of Mamba in the kind of coding for the content and the mode inside of Joker's World, but apparently Dragonslayer is the working name for the new pinnacle activity, so potentially a more puzzle or mechanics-driven version of something like Prison of Elders. So guys, super interesting stuff. Let me know your thoughts about it down below. Once again, this user is rounding up all of Anon's leaks across different platforms, most of them from many months ago, because as they say in the post, Anon is no longer leaking any content, so the stuff that's coming out is currently known, but not very well publicized, right? Apparently, they also plan to drop some Destiny 3 information onto Reddit at some point in the near future, and some folks did ask me about some recent leaks that came from 4chan, but according to Shadow, much of this stuff is kind of loosely based on other leaks we previously heard from Anon, but then it's been fleshed out and doesn't contain completely correct information about what could be in Destiny 3. Anon the 9 had previously said that we would be getting Europa as part of Destiny 3, 4 main planets at vanilla launch, and they'd spoken about how the game is in pre-development. Darkness subclasses will be a thing, as well as PvE versus PvP open world areas. So if we are to see more leaks from the same source, but for Destiny 3, we'll probably get more information about those things. Either way, let us know your thoughts about it down below. Again, we'll have to see how legitimate this stuff is, but if the info is indeed coming from Anon, then based on what we've seen in the past, we can probably expect all of this stuff to actually happen in one way or another. So give me your thoughts about that down below. Up next though, let's speak about April update changes. So we are going to be getting some more adjustments coming in the April update, which is planned to arrive on the 9th of April, alongside Arc Week, a new event that we don't have a ton of information for, but we should learn about soon. Nonetheless, we have some new things that'll be inside of this update. Some folks were talking about Nova Warp and how it's become pretty fluffy inside of PvP. Of course, they saw a nerf a little while ago, but Cosmo did jump in and say, we're going to be adjusting Nova Warp in the next update, and we will get more details in next week's TWAB. So some kind of change is coming to Nova Warp, and of course, based on it being a reply to this subject, it sounds like it's going to be some kind of buff, obviously. So Void Warlocks rejoice, you may yet be saved. However, Void Hunters, it could be that you have a bit of a timer around your neck right now. DMG said, the team is aware of the feedback over damage reduction, health of the player in Super, and other aspects of Spectral blades. Somebody said, I hope we can see the health get reduced soon, and DMG replied, to set expectations, it won't be in the next update to Destiny 2, which is currently planned for early April. Once we have more information, we'll let you know what to expect. And DMG also said that they've been collecting feedback about Super uptime and damage reduction. So it sounds like there is actually some kind of change in the works there, but it's not going to be arriving in the April update. So let us know your thoughts about that down below. Any changes you think should come for Spectral blades, or Nova Warp as well. Any of you guys who've been trying to infuse the Vow bow will have noticed it's not actually possible to infuse beyond 650, and Cosmo confirmed that this will also be fixed in the April update. And as Bungie have spoken about, they'll be fixing the bug with the Stronghold exotic gauntlets for the Titan, the Bloom perk for Warlocks. Also in the update, and as we spoke about a couple of days ago, we're going to see cosmetic drop rates changed in Dreaming City, so all of the Cursebreaker and Rivensbane items. Most of the drop rates have been at least doubled, so that's definitely very positive. Banshee will stop adding random world drop weapons from his loot table, and there'll be some adjustments to Nightfall handicap cards, invitations, and bugs with Lord Shaxx. DMG added some further colour to the change for 1000 voices, so folks were essentially asking for clarification about exactly how much it has been changed, but of course with it being a raid weapon, Bungie want to stay a little bit secretive. DMG said drop rates will be increased, better chances when update 2.2.1 goes live. That said, it will still be a rare drop. When it comes to the drop buff for the ship from the raid, DMG did confirm that is actually going to be a drop increase for the Glimmering Key, which of course helps to reward that ship. So good to know exactly how that is going to work. We can expect these changes and more on the 9th of April. Recently we did speak about some Bungie designers though. Josh Hamrick is moving away from Bungie to look at new projects. And of course Josh has been one of the core sandbox designers at Bungie, but now add John Wisniewski to that list. Of course John, also very well known in the Destiny community and as one of the sandbox developers. And he said, after 12 magical years, today is my last day at Bungie working on this incredible game. And both of these guys say that they want to go on to work on different projects. So very interesting, of course. The community wishes them both all the best with whatever they do next, but certainly very interesting to see such a turnaround when it comes to major, sandbox kind of leads and stuff at Bungie. Of course, there are many other sandbox designers there, but with these two leaving, there has been some speculation. Does this link to PvP and the lack of PvP content? What's going to happen in the future? Honestly, I don't necessarily think that's what it is. Gotta remember, these guys have been working there for quite some time, and when you're pumping out content for a game like Destiny, it's a lot of work, right? So it could just be that they want a bit of a breath of fresh air. Either way, let us know your thoughts about it down below, guys, as well as those changes coming up in April, and I'll keep you posted on related news for that. The final thing I think is worth talking about right here would be the invitation of the 9 for the week. So we do have a new one. The bounty requirements for this week from Zer, who is located in the Tower Hangar, by the way. So if you need to go visit him, pick it up, and there you go. But we need to clear the Inverted Spire, collect Cabal, Fallen, and Vex samples for the bounty. Fairly easy to get it done. And then of course we can go into the unknown space and witness a vision. So, spoiler alert, but this is this week's vision of the 9.
The clever one is in peril.
No, she will manage.
They will annihilate her.
Then she will die as one of us, gladly.
She will regret before the end.
You don't know the meaning of that word.
She will beg for death's release.
You cannot kill what has already died.
I thought this was a really cool one, guys. Obviously, they're talking about Mara Sov. The clever one is in peril, and the 9 are referring to something annihilating the Queen. But the emissary does say she will die as one of us, gladly. So does that mean that Mara Sov is a part of the 9 in one way or another? I'm not sure I have the lore knowledge to really talk about this right now at least, but we've also already seen Mara Sov speaking with the emissary in her court in Dreaming City, and they spoke about moving an asset into position, so at the very least they appear to be working on something together. And yes, I'm not going to fail to mention the giant Mara Sov in the background, almost kind of made out of clouds. Almost like a carved statue or something, pretty, obscure. And even more obscure is that throughout the conversation that you witness between the emissary and the Nine, Mara's head slowly turns to look at you, which is pretty creepy, to be honest. It's almost like that is a representation of the Queen, and it's almost like she's listening. So what is going on with her, man? Where is she? We've got a lot of questions right now, but it's very clear that Mara Sov and the Nine and their relationship appears to have become even more intimate than what we thought it was. Also, if you move back away from the plate where you speak to the emissary and then actually aim at Mara Sov, if you look through a weapon scope, she becomes absolutely massive in the skybox, which is pretty spooky. So yeah, overall, very curious stuff, and it appears that Mara could be in some kind of trouble. So I'd love to hear your thoughts about it down below, guys. What do you think's going to happen next? What is Mara's involvement with the Nine? And are we going to see her again? I'd love to get your thoughts about it down below. But otherwise, guys, for today, that is going to summarize the video. So a pretty interesting one. Those Season of Opulence leaks, I think, are sounding pretty good. And once again, it's worth clarifying, a lot of the information that came out of that was actually already communicated by Anon the Nine, but potentially in platforms where essentially no one really ever got to see it. A similar thing kind of happened with me and some of the stuff that I spoke about, a few months back. There were a lot of Anon leaks that I had hold of that actually were removed or essentially barely ever seen. And then when I spoke about things like Hawkmoon, that was the first time that they'd really kind of been seen by a lot of people. So I guess kind of a similar thing is happening right now. I'll keep my eye on that source and other information that could kind of legitimize it, and we'll see what happens, guys. I feel like we generally managed to pick out what's real and what isn't, so we'll keep an eye on it. I would, however, absolutely love to run around with that Dark Drinker again in Destiny 2, I gotta say. So let me know your thoughts about that, any of the April update stuff, or the invitation of the 9 this week. But if you have enjoyed this video, a like below is super appreciated. If you're new to the channel, be sure to hit subscribe to see more Destiny 2 content. Also, don't forget to check out my friends over at Tayrock if you want to save on some pretty smart watches they have in the store. The link for that is down below. But otherwise, thank you for tuning in, guys, and I hope you have an awesome day.